Hello everyone, welcome to the British Florist Association and WorldSkills UK Floristry Competition Talks. I'm a floristry judge and a member of the UK Floristry Judges Guild. I want to focus today on some of the aspects that we need to think about when competing in a floristry competition. And in this series of talks, I want to show you some hints and tips about what the judge is looking for, and I hope that you will get great marks in your next floristry competition. There are 4 facets that the judge is always looking for in every piece of floristry, and that is idea, colour, composition and technique. And today we're going to focus on composition. So what is competition? What is composition? Composition is how you organise your botanical materials. It's how you place your visual elements of your design to create a harmonious effect. So in any floral design, where you choose to place flowers and foliage and plant material will determine the visual effect. And by using the principles and elements of design, you'll create a harmonious design. Composition starts with a well thought out plan. There's a visual in your head, and then the idea, the materials that you use, the container all must work in harmony together. And understanding and using the principles and elements of design will help you create a great design and result in a pleasing impact. The WorldSkills Floristry Competition heats are all about great industrial standards and good practices. And using the principles and elements of design in your floristry every day for your customers will create fabulous floristry for them. So you will have been taught the principles and elements of design in your college or your workplace. And these are the guidelines found in all art. And they're what we use in floristry, and analysing your designs against these principles and elements is essential. Because the judge, when looking at your work, whatever the style is, will want to see that you have a grasp of the principles and elements of design. Your work will show it. So it's a good idea to start practising and analysing your work from the very start. So as I said, composition carries 30 marks out of a possible 100 marks, and it's broken down with 10 marks for shape, form, proportion and visual balance, 10 marks for movement, rhythm, line and space, and 10 marks for harmony, texture, dominance and contrast. Let's look at shape, form, proportion and visual balance. Carries 10 marks. The first decision will be determined by the schedule. Once you know what the task is, then you can start to plan your design. For example, if it's a wreath, then you will know that it's a round shape with a hole in the middle, a ring, but often the task is free and you decide what shape or outline the design will be. In competition work, the shape refers to the outline of the finished design. And this is generally a recognised shape. Geometric shapes are the most often used. Organic shapes associated with nature are more irregular and flowing, really interesting, but much more difficult to achieve when you're starting out. So in art, a shape is an enclosed space. It is the 2-dimensional outline with both height and width, and form is 3-dimensional. Most flowers are 3-dimensional and floral arrangements are generally 3-dimensional. Floral designs generally have a clearly defined outline. And if we look at these 2 designs here, Natalia's very strong oval shape of outline and Elizabeth's an elongated triangle, much more curvaceous, but both great clearly defined shapes. And don't forget, make sure that you have a variety of form within your design, round, line and transitional. All round shapes used in a design can be quite static and rather boring. So a variety of form within a design adds interest. And this lovely form linear design by Gregor Lersch shows you great form in the lovely grasses, the monstera round leaf, the elegant line of the tulips, and the lovely spear-like leaf that falls over the front of the container, and that blends both the flower and the container together harmoniously. So what is proportion? Well, proportion is the relationship of all the parts of the design to each other and the space it occupies. And if you look at Hideoki's great design, you can see that the elongated triangle of grass at the back is mirrored by the chrysanthemums at the front, and then the wafting betula branch just gives it great movement, great design, great proportion. Visual balance. This is the distribution of materials within the design, and how you place them will affect the visual balance. Without visual balance, the design can look as though it's falling over, have no stability, and give a sense of confusion. So where you place the flower is really important. There are generally two sorts of balance, asymmetrical and symmetrical. Laura's lovely asymmetrical design is a perfect balance. The alocasia gives a perfect balance to the length of the flower on the right. Gregor's work is a symmetrical design. If you put a line down the middle of it, then both sides would mirror one another. Movement, rhythm, line and space carries 10 marks. So the eye needs to travel through the design in an interesting way to create interest. And using space will give clarity to the design and emphasise different parts of the arrangement. And line will draw your eye through the design. So if we look at these two great form linear designs by Gregor, you can see that the white one has great line in the flower placements and the tall grass. It has repetition with the ranunculus to one side. It has a great space in the centre between the mitsumati branches. So all in all, a great design. And the red design with the amaryllis, again, a great space with a negative space within the design, and lovely curvaceous branches, fabulous designs, fabulous form linear designs. Every single element and principle of design is in these designs by the master of form linear, Gregor Lersch. Harmony, texture, dominance and contrast, again another 10 marks. So areas of dominance are very important within a design because they give visual interest and drama, and contrast is needed again for excitement and can be achieved in various ways. And harmony is achieved when everything, all the materials together, give a unified look. Natalia's work here has good areas of dominance, the dominant areas of the pink cosmos and the dominant area of the framework below, the twig framework, and the wafting branch, the wafting grasses are lovely, great movement. So a really good design with harmony, texture, dominance and contrast. Texture has to be used very carefully. In this design by Mark, then you can see there's a perfect example of how to use texture. The fluffy Banksia leaves, they contrast with the alocasia leaf, which is smooth, and If you use too much texture in a design, it can become very confusing. Too little, and then it becomes bland, so a perfect balance of texture is really required, like this one by Mark. So let's have a look at some hints and tips on composition. Have a well thought out plan and be decisive. Organise your design using the principles and elements of design. Every great floral designer uses them instinctively. There should be a clearly defined outline. Ensure there are dominant areas, recession and transparency in your design. Use a variety of forms to give interest to the design. Highlight areas in your design with the use of space. Place all materials carefully to aid visual balance. Add a degree of movement or rhythm. Clarity of design is essential. Limit the number of tricks and techniques in one design. One clever idea is enough. Don't overclutter a design. Know when to stop adding materials. Carefully use some texture in your design. Too much will be confusing. When using a container, there should be a correct proportion of botanical materials in relation to the container. Always think botanical materials first. And remember, practice, practice, practice until you have a very successful design. So good luck everyone. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in a competition room soon.